Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cactus Patch. I'm your host, Glitch Cactus, but you can call me Cactus. And today we have a very fun and exciting episode. And today we're going to be discussing the quickly popular on social media, specifically Twitter, the Splat magazine created by Rose. And they are here joined with me to talk about this amazing recap for the month of competitive Splatoon. So, Rose, how are you doing? And give the people a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, hello. So my name's Rose, like you mentioned. I'm a competitive Splatoon player who also enjoys doing kind of some fun things beyond the community. Some of them, I think the most notable one was the community top 10 for Lowink, which I've kind of fallen a little bit behind on just because I've been busy with other things, looking at other projects like the Splat magazine, but that's one that really took off, and I got to talk about it with Popgun on his podcast a little while ago. Um, but yeah, I just kind of do fun things in the community when I'm not actually playing the game.
And for those who might not be aware, Rose was on the ever grinding to the top team Octopi, which had made so many great stops until the end once the team kind of dwindled away into top level. But since then, yeah, Rose has done such amazing things. I mean, almost completely forgot about the Lowink top 10 predictions. Every month we had a fun form to fill out. I always loved the questionnaire. Well, before I was banned, I remember filling them out saying, I don't know if I'll win, but I know I'm getting good. But now we're here with the Splat magazine, a entire recap of not only just the teams that win tournaments, but also some fun other features like team spotlights, gear ability, or sorry, weapon ability and gear build spotlights, and even artist spotlights. So I guess the first thing we'll go into, you already went into a little bit about what you do in the community. So how about let's start with the idea of the magazine. Like, where did it come from? How did you get to building the idea on it?
Yeah, so one of my friends, their name is Socks. I'd known him for quite a while, kind of early to mid 2022, and it was kind of originally their idea. We were just kind of talking about it. I think they were just reaching out to some friends about who they could get involved, and they made a little server where it had some other artists and people who could maybe contribute. And that was all the way back in like August of last year. But I think everybody ended up getting busy. It just kind of happens. Um, but then like a week and a half ago, I just kind of thought about it, and I was like, that was a really fun idea, and I just kind of wanted to like dive right into it. Because once I get an idea, I just kind of go with it until it's completed. And I was like, well, if this is gonna be a monthly issue, if I don't get it done by March, I'm gonna have to wait till April, and that's kind of boring. I just kind of reached out to some friends, which is why a lot of the people in this first issue are people I already have interacted with a lot, like Gus, even the teams I interviewed, Frutella, Catnip, Secret Elixir. I already have pre-existing connections on those teams, which is great because they're already pretty notable teams, but I could kind of message them and be like, hey, can you give me this information? And I didn't have to explain it too much because we're all already friends. They're like, yeah, sure. And so I was able to get a pretty quick turnaround on that. Um, Same with Gus, Acing, Len, Clown. These are all people I already know. So it just made that information gathering stage a lot easier. Um, and so for next month, it'll be kind of the same. Now that people know what the magazine is, hopefully, they're going to be, I don't have to really explain what I'm gathering information for, which took a little bit longer, but like I said, it was pretty smooth going.
That's awesome to hear, and I'm glad to hear that it started out as a suggested idea, and you were able to really run with it. Especially knowing the time crunch you had from the previous month, and then able to really just put in the work this month to, or no, sorry, yeah, this month to really push for that to go in for March. For those that are watching, I did link the magazine, the tweet that was tweeted by Rose for the magazine in the chats, both on YouTube and on Twitch. So feel free to check that out as well, just so you can get a great idea of what this magazine looks like, which it looks amazing. I just want to say that the idea of it was knocked out of the ballpark. It's incredible. There's so many just amazing parts of it. Um, So you did mention about kind of like getting the ideas for the magazine and figuring out like kind of what worked. Did you kind of know the order that you wanted it to go in when you were making the magazine? Like what was going to be shown on the first couple pages and the last couple pages, things like that?
Yeah, I think the way I kind of approached it was just what is going to be the easiest read to kind of the harder reads.
Hmm.
So I think as you'd notice, it gets more and more text heavy as you're going through. Since normally, if you want a magazine, it kind of reads like a newspaper. All the most important things are going to be at the top or at the front, and then as you go app tips was a really fun one that I think a lot of people ended up liking, and also the kind of weapon tips from people who end up maining them.
Yeah, absolutely. I tried to pull it up on the screen. Unfortunately, OBS does not like me and does not want me to be able to easily share it with the chat. But let's see if I can pull some magic to pull it up on the screen real quick so we can get that open up here for 1 second. Let's try to get this up here for the chat. See if we can get this going to see what it looks like. Gotta pull some magic here. I think what I'll do is I'll shrink it and put it over my side and see if it lets me do it. No, it does not. But you know what? It's okay. We tried. But yeah, looking at it, hopefully, again, I did link it uh, in the chats as well as you're flipping through. I know on mobile you did put that you will see a double blank page. So if you are watching on your phone, feel free to flip through one more page and you'll be able to see how it goes. But like you're saying, you do have a lot of the kind of quick and again very colorful and easy to kind of see with your eyes the difference between the tournament wins by not only tournaments itself, by the organizations that run the tournaments, leading into the Splatfest, which I love that so much. I love the text use as well. Leading into then the team spotlights. I do remember getting asked for that. As those who might not know, I am a member on Secret Elixir, so we had a good couple laughs trying to figure out what we wanted to say. And
So your team gave me the most problems because for
sorry.
the other teams, I was like, here's what I need, give it to me. And they kind of did. But then Gerda was like, okay, I can give it to you when we have a team meeting. But then I also got sent like all of the information on an individual basis and not on a team basis. And I was like, okay, I kind of gotta like organize this all together now.
Yeah, we kind of I think we misunderstood the assignment. We were just like, let's
As
just
you
all
see,
fill
y'all
it
did.
out. Yeah. So I'm glad you were able to make some sense of what we said, and it came out really funny. I really did enjoy reading through it, seeing our team on there. I'm just like, the fun facts just went crazy. For those who don't know, if you're not able to click on it, the fun fact we had for Secret Elixir was we question every day why Brendan is still on the team, as Brendan's main on there is shown as the Dowser Dualies. What a side to have.
Kurta actually did give me a full list of their mains, but I thought this was funny.
Oh, 100%. It was so much more enjoyable to see.
I was like, if people don't know this team, it might just look weird, but I think it's really funny.
Yeah, absolutely. And for maybe for those who do know us, will like get a good laugh at that themselves. Just like, yeah, you
Yeah.
know what? That sounds like Secret Elixir. So, were there any kind of extra ideas that you had that maybe didn't make the cut this time that you wanted to, or maybe that you just cut altogether that aren't going to maybe be in a future issue of the magazine?
There wasn't a ton of stuff that I wasn't able to include. There are a few ideas that I kind of had in the background, like um, kind of including stuff for Salmon Run, or one of the ones that actually I didn't get to include because of time was just other smaller tournament organizations or just tournaments in general. The only ones I really was able to cover was the main two organizations, IPL and Dapple.
Hmm.
But there's a lot of other cool tournaments throughout the month that I'd like to include in the future.
Yeah, because I mean, every day we have new tournaments that are just popping up left and right that are you know, whether they are limited to the recent new community changes for tournaments as like weapon bans and weapon limitations, and also moving forward with even just other tournaments that are maybe more rare to see by these organizations already. I know we do have in a couple of months the Girls Duos Cup coming up by Dapple Productions. So I know it's going to be an interesting tournament to want to have highlighted, and just tournaments in general. Obviously, we do have Worlds this month, so I think a little page or a slide dedicated to Worlds is going to be really fun to have. But that totally
Yeah.
makes sense, absolutely. Especially with again, Dukin, just so many terms. I feel like you probably had a little bit, like you mentioned, you're very busy. So you had limited time about what to pick and choose to get all this ready.
Yeah, well, at least in April we have more time, and like after the product launched, I had a lot of people reach out to me just wanting to help just because they thought it was a cool project in the community. So we should be able to include some more stuff. Like you mentioned, there's like a tournament every day, so I probably still won't be covering some of the like smaller ones.
Yeah,
But I think it would be fun to cover some of the like gimmick tournaments and talk about what was maybe fun about their rule set, or some of the other kind of more notable tournaments that didn't make the cut, like the Level Up series, kind of just stuff like that.
yeah, absolutely. And it things like that will also give spotlight to maybe tournaments that are just getting more grounds to start running up, and especially if they're a little more well known, will kind of shoot them up in popularity a little bit more because I mean, because the community loved this magazine. For context, for those who maybe don't know about it, I mean, let me just quickly pull it up one more time, checking the reach that this had. I mean, we're looking at close to 600 likes and almost 270 retweets on it as well, with roughly 37,000 impressions, which is incredible to see. And it's a great um, kind of community built uh, magazine that really shines not on just a good amount of players and tournaments, but seen by tons of eyes. Maybe not in just the competitive scene, but also the casual scene. I mean, considering how colorful it is and how user friendly the magazine is, which I will say you nailed the nail on the head with that. Trying to think of how that's worded. Um, it's great to see, and it's an awesome spotlight for just anything and everything, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I think if it did get to outside of the competitive community, it would be something very easy to follow and probably get people excited about maybe getting into competitive, because it's definitely a nice kind of snapshot of the community. Since as the month goes on, most of the way that all of us are getting our news are through Twitter. And honestly, like I can't even find the post that I was thinking about like earlier this morning. So it's gonna be hard to kind of keep track of all of the important stuff, which is another kind of reason I did it. It was just like a nice way to be able to have to look back on everything for a month, and also just kind of keeping all of the positives separate from the negatives, since sometimes um, all of the news in this community can end up getting muddied.
Yeah, absolutely. It's unfortunate that a lot of the more positive and well noted uh posts in general just kind of get hidden behind, and I felt like this was a great way that just kind of merges a lot of the positive together. And I know, like you said, mentioned like being able to just have this outreach more into the casual scene. I know I did reach out to you privately about potentially bringing this into like a YouTube series, which you gave me the okay for, which I would love to try to find a way to maybe make this into a little bit of I won't say a YouTube series, but help really breach it out besides Twitter itself, because I feel like there's such a large audience that's not on Twitter, which is typical for a lot of the casual community. Because I mean, what do they have to tweet about that's besides some Splatfest results, or maybe just a casual check-in with some content creators that they know? Which honestly, I get that. That used to be me before I got into competitive, so I get it. But yeah, I think it'd be awesome to kind of try to outreach that more into as big of this from this as the scene is, and outreach as many people as possible, because it's just such an amazing thing to finally have in the community. And I believe it was IPL that started a kind of like what to expect in the next month from them as well, which is also really cool to see. I mean, this community right now is building up a lot of really good just informational topics and posts and videos to help not only like newer players in the competitive scene, but also just casual scenes that maybe perhaps see it on a passing glance and maybe just can use that information, not only just for enjoyment, but also maybe get their toes dipped into the competitive scene if they always wanted to try it.
Yeah, for sure.
So for I know I kind of glanced on it. You did for the future ideas of the magazine, but so like you were saying, you do have a lot more people reach out, and you do actually have a Discord server for the magazine as well. So what was the idea to make that Discord server a thing? Was it just so many people were just kind of wanting to help out and you just needed that extra space?
Yeah, I think it was a good place to start directing people since I mentioned I had a lot of people in my Discord DMs, a lot of people just commenting or quoting on the post, like, I'd love to help, or here's a fun idea, or in my Twitter messages. And I was just like, I need to figure out a good place to send all these people so that it's not so spread apart. And DMs can kind of get lost when you're working with so many of them. And it was also just going to kind of be a nice place to house everything as it's being worked on. So when we finish something, I can just kind of put it there. So I'm not going to be the only one who has it. Since I kind of built out everything out on Canva, which I think you can share, but normally it's kind of easier because not a lot of people have it. So I can just send all of those finished spreads for other people to look over. And then also, I think the main benefit of it is I was kind of able to include a little proposal submit section. So if you had an idea, you can just kind of click a button. You can get like a private thread with me and the other people managing it and just say, here's something I'm passionate about. I'd love to write about it. What do you think? And we've had a lot of people kind of go through that route, and it's kind of helping us get some of the pages ready for April.
That's awesome. So we're not even 5 days in, you're already having plans set up to already take care of a lot of the pages that are already coming through, which is incredible to have. And again, I totally get it, and it makes sense. Have a place where everything can be located. That's not just DMs that, like you said, do get lost. I mean, it happens all the time too. With even like certain like I imagine tournament TOs get lost with a lot of DMs they receive, and just in general, when it comes to making big projects, you want to have it in a chat where you know things can be pinned and saved with multiple people rather just individually, and then you're scattering through hundreds of DMs like, well, I know I saw this, where did it go?
Yeah, and
um
some
yeah.
people just have some really cool ideas that I would never have thought of. Like even though async was included in the last issue, they also submitted a proposal where they were just talking about how they could kind of write about pushing a more non-meta weapon throughout mid-level and into top level, and just kind of talking about how that goes with comps and interacting with people, which I thought was a really cool idea. Another one we had was just kind of in-game badge hunting, so not the sendo badges, but the ones you're actually
Oh
showing on your
yes,
splash tags.
that's right.
So Cool reached out to me, the member who used to be on Cherry Limeade, and he was like, "Yeah, I really find this part of the game fun. I just got 999 in table turf," and I was like, "I don't know how you did that. I'm at like level 20." So he's gonna like
I
write
feel
out
that,
guides
yeah.
on how to get some of these cool badges.
Yeah, wow, that's actually some really cool section ideas to have, especially like I could totally see that being like the hardest badge to collect. I know I believe it was Chase247 who tweeted about like the hardest badge to get in the game was like some wild like open badge or something. It's just something that takes hours upon hours to get. So that'd be a really cool section to see, and like players can know about it and be like, "Wow, I did not know that. Now I want to grind for it."
Yeah, for sure.
Taking a look at the Twitch chat, Pinky asked a question for you, Rose. So, since the you use the issue platform to publish it, does that mean that when the next issue is released, this issue will become unavailable? And do you plan to share the raw file for people to download it in the future, since issue doesn't allow direct download?
Yeah, so I'm probably going to paste the PDF of all of the different magazines in the Discord server for anybody who just kind of wants to have it on hand. Luckily, the site I ended up using to host it, which was called Issue, I believe you can have multiple things hosted on it at once, so I don't need to delete the old one to have a new one. it's just kind of like a lot of other websites, like a Google Drive or Canva, where you can have multiple projects going without overwriting the last one. I just thought it was a really neat website to use because of the way it was presenting basically magazines. It's able to show those spreads. If you're not on mobile, you can see the entire 2 pages next to each other and how I kind of made those layouts. I also really just found it fun how the pages actually flipped. I just thought it made it feel a lot more fun to read and present, kind of how I envisioned it.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes it really enjoyable to read because I feel like with everything nowadays, how it's just like one way on your phone, you're scrolling top to bottom, and this really gives you kind of like that change of like, oh, I get to just like read like an actual magazine. It kind of feels like a throwback too for us players that are a little older in the community about like, oh, I remember these days we used to look at magazines and go through them, and that everything's just on your phone nowadays or your tablets or computers. So it gives you a really cool classic feel, and I feel like that's something that I feel like also really fits well with Splatoon 3 with just how it has a lot of retro aspects to it, maybe from clothing or just design choices. Especially with oh my gosh, I'm forgetting her name. Who runs the shop where you can buy locker items? Um, I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about.
Harmony, yeah,
Yes, Harmony. That was it. Thank you.
yeah,
Harmony does a lot of like like kind of like classic things from like the past. I mean, Harmony's literally using that like one of when Nintendo used to be a toy company, the arm grabber thing, which is really cool.
yeah,
So it's like a no matter what, feels like a fun throwback. Oh, it feels like something Harmony would sell. That's what I'm trying to get at.
yeah, for sure.
So that's awesome. I did also post links in the chats both on YouTube and Twitch. So if you would like to check out the Discord server, feel free to join there. And I did make sure that the links are not expirable. So if someone sees this in like 8 days down the line, you can still join it through that link. And just check the server out. And maybe if you want to help out Rose and many of the other fantastic artists and creators that are in that server, and maybe be help out with the next issue, obviously fill out the forms there that are linked. And again, the server is very um, simple to follow. As someone who hopped in there and sometimes never knows where to look in servers because there's just so much to look at, it was very nice to see a very simple layout and be able to find everything right where it is. So with that, is there any other information besides maybe leading with the magazine or anything extra that we can like expect from you in the future? Like you said, you've worked on the top 10 low-ink predictions. You've also now have the Splat magazine going. So I mean, obviously, I imagine there's no uh you know time stopping that or time frame that you would want to stop these magazines from coming out, but I assume you'll be able to, for people that want to get notified, I guess, is there um places directly that they'll be able to get informed by these things, like besides this obviously probably just a Discord server and Twitter?
Yeah, those are probably going to be the main two places I'm going to be able to get the information out. Um, if people aren't on Twitter too often, just know to look for it probably on the first few days of the next month. Um, the reason I did it on April 2nd this month for March was because Low Ink was super late. Like it finished on I think the very last day of March.
Oh
So it was
yes, that's
actually kind
right.
of I was like kind of excited that the winners got back to me so quickly. I was like, hey guys, I got this project. Do you want to be interviewed? But I need it by like today.
Oh yeah, how
So
did that go? Having to interview them or trying to get for them like that frame one ask to be interviewed for this.
yeah, it was like I think a couple hours later, I just kind of went to the server and found whoever their captain was, and I was like, "Congratulations on the win! I'm working on this project. Do y'all want to be included?" And I think I asked a lot of people kind of the same thing. I didn't tell them like too much about it because that's probably a longer explanation than they needed. I was just like, here's a project. If you'd like to be included, go ahead. And I don't think I had a single person tell me like I'm not interested. Like a lot of people were really down to just kind of help out.
That's awesome. That's really glad. That's really good to hear, and it gives a little bit of insight too, like how these things kind of go. I do while looking at the magazine of other things to ask. The player featuring page. You did do a Q&A with Pika Dave, who used to be on Cherry Limeade, I believe. Um, was that kind of like a last minute thing to ask, or was that like something you already had planned out?
Well, I think kind of like I mentioned, I only was working on this for like maybe a week and a half before it ended up getting published because I was just like, I don't want to have to wait till April
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
because
that's right.
I kind of
Yeah.
had the idea in the middle. Um, I kind of asked them if they wanted to do a Q&A or if they were interested in that, and they were down, like I mentioned, and um, they ended up posting the questions Thursday, Friday, sometime closer to the end of the month. But they just asked Twitter, "Do you have any questions for me, Splatoon related?" And a lot of people got back pretty quickly, so there wasn't a super long turnaround on that either.
Awesome. That's awesome that they were able to get it out, and it's also used questions from the community to help answer that kind of Q&A base. And speaking of kind of having the community's help with that, do you think you're gonna have the community kind of vote on maybe the next person they like have Q&A, or even like some other sections like maybe the team spotlight or artist spotlight? Is that something maybe that might be of interest in the future, having the community kind of vote on who they'd, or suggest, actually, instead of voting, sorry, let me be more specific here, suggest the next players and artists to be featured in future issues of the magazine?
Yeah, I think that is gonna be the main vision. Like, for March, just because of time constraint, um, I ended up doing a lot of this stuff myself, so I was just
Yeah.
kind of picking prominent teams who I knew would respond quickly and kind of going from there. Um, but it is gonna be a community thing, so I want to make sure that stuff the community is interested in is actually being included. Um, but near the end of the month, I felt like I was asking for way too much just on my private Twitter because I was like, um, putting out posts for Splatfest photos and then the spring photos and then just general photos. And I was
Yeah.
like, I already asked for a lot, so I'm sure that they'll figure it out next month.
Yeah, absolutely. Now that you have a lot more time and a lot more resources, it'll be a little easier to have a lot more community suggested opportunities for the magazine to really just push other players that might be of interest that a lot of people may want certain questions of, or even artists as well that deserve that kind of spotlight. Of course, again, with the amazing success that this magazine has had, just in general, because once again, it's an incredible look, an incredible style. A lot of the images that were used are just so well put together. Um, like some of them are like a nice little collage. Other ones are obviously a fun little like kind of side photos to have throughout the pages, which keeps it colorful, fun, and interesting. And it's really just the eye candy.
Yeah, for sure. I think I'm going to kind of approach each section differently. Rather, it's going to be a suggestion or kind of people submitting their own work.
Mhm.
For teams, I think I'm going to reach out at some point on my Twitter, just ask like, who are some teams that y'all think are fun and active and prominent in the scene right now? And I think what I'm going to try and do is kind of pick one team, probably from top or high level, one team from midish level, and one team from low level, just so it's not like all these high level teams. I kind of want to make this like a very community thing so people can get featured if they're interested in that. And I think it's something really fun when you're in like early comp because I remember um, back when I was still low ink eligible and I was really new to the scene. I thought it was like the coolest thing ever when Popgun would talk about
Oh
us.
yes, yes, the
So
pop gun
I'd
mention.
be like logging in and I'd be like, yo, I just won little squiddly. I can't wait to hear Popgun talk about me. So it's kind of that same thing. I want people to have the opportunity to see themselves and get excited about it because that's going to be one of the main things making this magazine something fun.
Yeah, that's actually such. That just brought an idea for. I'm gonna have to put it in the suggestion box in the Splat magazine server. I just thought of a really fun um, section to have. Maybe something based on. You're here. I could tell you about it. Maybe something based around TOs. Maybe like a TO page. Because I know that TOs always feel like they always get kind of in the dark. I mean, they kind of are. They're behind the scenes, so they're never really truly spotlighted. So I think it'd be really cool to even have like a little um TO page of just maybe like maybe similar to like that of a Q&A, just like who they are, um, along with the like a player and teams. That's always something noteworthy in this community because TO's put so much effort in, so much work in. But I do also just really love that idea of taking different teams from different levels to show that anyone and everyone can do great things and be amazing and really have an opportunity to shine no matter what level they are, whether you're at the very top or at the very bottom. There's always an opportunity and there's always a light that can be shined onto you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Gus also kind of brought up bringing in the TOs into it and kind of doing a spotlight for them as well.
Ah,
Since,
beat me
I
to
can
it.
appreciate how hard a job that is.
Yeah, absolutely. Dang, Gus beat me to it. Same wavelength of thinking, just a little earlier. That's awesome, and I can't wait to. I'm personally just really excited. I'm thinking of all these ideas in my head as well. Like, of course, for like lands that come in and out, whether they're locals or even majors, because we're finally in this season where weather's getting a little bit nicer. A lot more lands can be um kind of a lot more lands happen in general all around. Obviously, I think is it this weekend? There's like three lands happening at once throughout the states. I think there's the SoCali, there's the Sunset Surge, and then there's the new Sea Battle land that's taking place in Seattle. So we're having lands come out finally once again with nice weather. So a lot of interesting stuff that's going to be trying to pick and choose what to put in for this month's issue.
Yeah, for sure. I've already gotten like so many requests or pitches or suggestions, and I think the last issue was definitely on the shorter end. Um, I think it ended up being like 20 or so pages, and that sounds like a lot, but some of them are just pictures of people in fun spring fashion. So it's definitely kind of depends. So I do want the next one to be longer, but there's going to be a balance of I don't want it to be 100 pages because then it's going to be too daunting, or
Yeah.
the like actually more fun or important stuff might get overshadowed. So I'm not going to include like a crazy amount of things, but we'll kind of see what that balance ends up being.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when I first looked at it, like I didn't even realize how fast I kind of went through. I believe looking at it now, it was 25 pages, left, right, front, and back. Which, like you mentioned, there are a handful of pages that are just either full images or, like in the beginning, how it's just quick looks at the teams that won tournaments and the tournaments that took place by organizations. So that's always really cool to see that you could just look at this and not even realize how many pages you flip through, which I feel like is social media nowadays, right? We're just flipping through tons of different things, whether it's other social media platforms, not even realizing how long we're spending looking at it. So that's definitely gonna
Yeah,
be
I mean
cool.
another interesting kind of feature of the website I chose to host this is that it can kind of show you the amount of times it's been viewed and
Oh,
also the
cool.
average read time. So those are two like really interesting metrics because I love looking at data like that. And I think at the end of it, I ended up reaching about 1,100 reads, which is crazy. And
Wow.
then the average read time was about like 6 minutes. So it wasn't something like you open it and then you're done, but
Yeah.
it also wasn't like super crazy long.
Yeah, it gave a good time to like you look at it, and there's definitely pauses where players are be reading through to catch up on the community things they missed. There's because I will say there's a lot of things that get lost when you're looking through Twitter and you're not able to find it, and you hear about it way later than expecting. So it gives opportunity for players to look at it and be like, oh, I didn't even know that, or read through certain like of the spotlights that you have for artists. People now have new artists they might like and want to follow. They have new players to look for, new teams even that they want to keep their eyes on that might be rising the ranks, not only in tournaments but overall in the competitive scene. So it's really cool to have um, this magazine that's going to be able to spotlight those kind of changes and for players to have those notifications on so they can be alerted when this goes through. So anything they miss, they'll be able to catch it.
Yep, one for sure.
So, I believe we covered most topics about the magazine. So, is there anything extra that you'd like to kind of mention about it? Maybe things we can look out for, things you might want to say in general, or anything like that?
Um, yeah, I guess just talking about like maybe future projects for me. I'm not too sure about anything kind of big like this because most of my ideas are on a smaller scale, which is kind of what led me into this idea being kind of a cool one because I was like, there's probably other people like me who are wanting to do a community top 10, which now that I have the magazine back up and running, I might try and do it again this month, and it would be fun, something fun to include on the low ink spread. Um, Also, the X rank versus Louis division was another fun idea I had where I was like, this is just something interesting that I'd like to know, and I can go ahead and post it on Twitter, and whoever wants to see it can. But I think that the magazine is just going to be kind of a home for anybody like that who's like, this would be a really fun idea, but also help them get the outreach if they don't have the amount of like followers or something on Twitter. Since a lot of people can have really cool ideas that might be interesting, and now they have a place to actually get it featured.
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually really cool and a great idea. Like I mentioned before, it gives the spotlight for, like you mentioned, for players and people that have great ideas that get lost, things that are being created. I know recently, I believe there's a Twitter account that's completely based around uh gear abilities and the types of gears and abilities that work with certain weapons and in general how they work. And that, I'm sure it started off as an idea that didn't grow right away, but because it got some more traction lately, thanks to some big names seeing it and retweeting it on Twitter and spreading the word, it's finally blowing up. But there's so many that get lost in that we don't even realize that now they have an opportunity to shine and have more of the information put out there. And like you said, you started putting kind of statistical data in that seemed interesting to you, and I'm sure there's tons of players that probably saw it interesting as well, because that is something that I'm sure has always been the wonder for players. I know when I first started competitive, looking at like free agent posts, right? You always include your experience or your XP power that you get through X battles. I remember back in S2, that was such a big deal. Now, of course, it's kind of a hit or miss depending on the region you choose, but it's very interesting to see how the certain divisions that you are somewhat relate to your X power, which is something really interesting that and notable to look at.
Yeah, like looking at the specific spread, I think the way or I think just in general, the projects I take on, I just end up finding a question or try and think of something that I think would be super interesting. So the XP one, like you mentioned, it's come up a lot, like in free agent posts, stuff like that. It ends up being, well, I have 2600 power. That means I'm estimated this. Um, and normally, like a lot of people are like, not really. X power isn't going to be kind of translating one to one. And I still don't think that's something that's true. I think even in the magazine spread, I included like, so if you're 3k XP, am I divest? And I'm like, no, because honestly, it's more of a reflection of mechanics
Yeah.
than anything else. So you can be like 3000 XP and still be on the lower end of mid level or even lower just because you don't have a lot of experience in comp yet with callouts or team synergy or a lot of stuff like that, because some of the things you can get away with in solo queue, like just random sharks that can't be called out because it's just four random people, will end up having a lot more impact than they would in a comp setting.
Yes,
So it's
absolutely.
definitely not going to be translating one to one, but it was interesting to see how it is kind of steadily increasing as you go up the skill levels.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like that's an aspect too with just X rank and kind of solo queue in general that a lot of players tend not to account for. That when you're in a team setting, there's so much that you really can't get away with. I know something myself that I struggled with for a while was believing that after I splat somebody, oh, I could just shark here and they're never gonna, no one's gonna say anything and call me out. And
Yeah.
then I enter a tournament and then I'm called out immediately and I get beamed. So it's like there's no winning. So it's really understanding the clear differences between the two.
Yeah, and then another one, like just talking about the community low ink again, I just thought it would be a really cool idea to have people actually in that scene, like giving their predictions. Because I remember back when I was in low ink, I had a really good idea of who was going to be making alpha, who might even be winning, just because I'm playing in those tournaments with them. I'm scrimming them. You're going to get a really good idea of the other people who are around you just because you're spending all your time in that kind of community. So that while the Pop Gun top 10 is like super fun, I thought the community one would be like another really cool layer to add to that. So I hope that other people end up thinking of other cool questions like that. Like, does the community know Link better than one individual person? Or how is XP correlating? And that's the kind of stuff that we're going to end up featuring.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's gonna be really interesting to know because yeah, Lowink is one of the largest tournaments in the community scene that has so many players entering. So that's really cool. I can That's gonna be fun to see. Looking at the Twitch chat, Pinky does ask, do you have a history with graphic design, or was this project your first try into this field?
I don't have a like experienced or professional, I guess in quotes, experience with graphic design. I think the closest thing I can say is I have a degree in business administration or just business. So a lot of this stuff I kind of remember some rules from my marketing class on like how to make things look and keeping things not too busy and
Yeah.
organized, and I had it in the back of my mind like what fonts are just bad to read. So I actually had to change that a lot of the time because some of the text is kind of small. So I needed to make sure that it would read well even on like a phone screen. So just like a few of those old rules I have in the back of my mind. Um, but I ended up using Canva, which is like a really nice platform if none of y'all have used it before. It's super easy to work with. Like they have a ton of pre-existing layouts or elements and stuff like that. So it's pretty easy to work with. And the main time I worked with it before was for the community top 10. I made like these really nice graphics showing the actual top 10 list, and some of the honorable mentions who are people that came up a lot in the poll but just didn't end up making the actual top 10. So that was like my main time with it. But other than that, yeah, I don't have anything like super professional.
Yeah, but that's still really good. Like I think that's an aspect that is not appreciated enough. Like you said, you have a degree in marketing, so that's really interesting to see that the kind of information that you can learn from there that's not really design based, but still kind of what is the like going to be the eyesores? What's going to be things that people are going to latch onto right away? And even like you mentioned, thinking of the differences from reading it on like a phone versus your computer. That's such a like the only way I know of that is when making like YouTube thumbnails. That like
Yeah.
you gotta make sure you can read whatever is on your thumbnail on a phone screen. And most people don't know that. Most people when they make a design, it's just, oh yeah, I made it on my computer, I can see it on my computer, it's good for whoever has a computer. Without realizing, wait, there's people that if I post on social media are gonna see this on their phone. And if they can't read it, it's not going to get as many good impressions or share it as much or viewable as easily as it would if they were on their computer. So that's such an interesting aspect that you were able to understand and kind of put to fruition. I don't know words right now, but really um, that shows that you knew what you were doing, even if you may feel you weren't. Like you really understood the assignment and thought of things probably no one else would have right away.
Yeah, because I think the best way to look at this magazine is like on a desktop because you're able to see the entire spread next to each other.
Hmm.
And while I like did make sure that each page looked good and kind of could be read on its own, a lot of the pages, especially like the blaster um kind of class highlight and the map tips for specifically Humpback, those pages are meant to be kind of tied together and read together. So it's nice to see them side by side. But I also remembered like I'm posting this on Twitter. That's where everybody is going to be coming from.
Yep.
And most of the time you're reading Twitter from your phone. So if I had to bet, I'd say that most people were reading this on their phone on a page by page basis.
I know I did. It came out when I was at work.
Yeah,
I checked it out right away. I was like, wait,
for
this is
sure.
really cool. And I agree with Pinky in the chat. It does look amazing on the phone. Like when you first open it up, like you mentioned, you do see the double page of the white screen, which I think that's just some probably phone issue or whatever. But nevertheless, when you keep going through, it still looks great. It's clear, it's readable, it's understandable, and of course, obviously, it's on the phone. You could zoom in if you really want to. just because phones do that naturally. It always gives you the option to just zoom in if there's a section that you're really interested in or trying to poke at. So that was really cool to see that no matter what platform, both PC and on your phone, it still looked amazing.
Yeah, the thing about the blank page, I was really hoping it wouldn't throw people off too much because I could have just added some text that said like, keep reading, but I thought that would have looked kind of clunky.
Yeah, I got you.
But what it is basically is just for the formatting, since this can be read either as an individual page or the spread. Um, I needed to have that page there. It's basically, if you think about a physical magazine, once you open the cover, it'll be basically that backside of the front cover before
Hmm.
you actually get to the content. So it's making sure that the pages are actually next to each other on the like main version on desktop.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's so interesting. So these are things that they could just clearly be missed, and these like you thought of it, which is awesome, and it's so cool. Love the technical stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, as someone myself who just loves knowing like the ins and outs of a lot of just how things function and work, and always asking questions. It's amazing to know that you as well share that kind of that want to just know and able to kind of test things out and see how it would work, and then knowing that things were able to fall into place. It's just it's incredible.
Yeah, I ended up being super proud of the end result, and I wasn't too sure of the reception it would get since I think the very last time I did the community link project, it kind of didn't get a ton of traction, and I was like, I'm not sure how much this will get, but I'm sure that the people who do end up reading it will think it's who will think it's cool as well.
Yeah, and you also have like that's also the great part about how you have so many people included in the magazine is that you're already getting a huge outreach with whoever you include, because that's going to go across a variety of individual communities in the Splatoon community as a whole, from competitive to casual to the artistic side of the community, to the analytical side of the community for players that might see those pages about certain weapons, or like you said, the statistics between the divisions and the X powers at the end. Like these are things that certain players in certain communities. Within the Splatoon community, they're going to find interesting and want to share, especially if they've worked on it. They're going to share it and send it to people that they know, or just in general, retweet it, like it, post it wherever. So it's, and plus, of course, the friends that you have are always going to share it no matter what. So you're getting tons of outreach right at the beginning, and it just builds up from there. So it's definitely, I could definitely see something like this being very big for a long time, which is with how much it includes.
Yeah, I hope it only really continues to grow, and I think that um we're kind of on track to do that, just kind of looking at how the March issue will be compared to the April, kind of from an early standpoint. Like we already have a lot of cool stuff that's going to be included, so I think it'll end up just getting better and better each time, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, you were kind of on a strict time limit, but now you have a lot more time to go through and include more pages, kind of see how things will align and they'll work. And that's going to be really interesting and exciting to see, because we could see a lot more inclusions in the magazines. And obviously, I can already see it's going to get just, if not similar, still a very large outreach in general. Just all over the community, because it just includes so much of different parts of it.
Yeah, for sure.
So, with that being said, I believe that is kind of everything we have for regarding the Splat magazine. Once again, are there any other closing thoughts that you might have regarding the magazine or in
Yeah, I don't
general?
think I have too much more to add. The main thing is just that um, I really hope that the rest of the community also just tries to stay as positive as possible, since in the magazine kind of thing, there are definitely ways to approach it that would be negative, like
Mm-hmm.
kind of just kind of using it as like a drama spread, or like, oh, like what's the latest like tea that happened. But we wanted to
Yeah.
make sure that it was like only positive and like this nice beacon amongst some of the other stuff in our community. So hopefully we just continue to keep up that positivity.
Absolutely. With how much goes on, and like you mentioned, there was so many like ways that things could have been either a neutral ground where it could be taken either or just in a negative light. It's amazing to see what different aspects of different relations to the game being taken in a very positive manner, regardless of what it might have been, and hopefully for future, and hopefully if there's any teams that are interviewed, no one does what we did about other teams, but instead just about their own players, how we question why we added them to the team in the first place, but in all good fun. So definitely, and I think this is a really good positive aim, and it's gonna launch the community in a better direction because it's so nice to see so much positive outreach, and like you said, and like you showed in the magazine, it's so colorful, it's so exciting, and it makes you want more, especially with how much it shows, and that's gonna be very really fun to see, just consistently.
Yeah, I really hope that this project continues to keep going since I think it's already kind of had a cool impact on the community, and I think we can do even more.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I also want to try, unless anyone, or if anyone else would like to try to make a really fun YouTube video covering the magazine. I already kind of have envisions in my mind where how they always announce the Splatoon 3, like the new seasons, how it's just very kind of like sporadic and quick, and they're flipping through the magazine, through those trailers. So I feel like it'd be really fun to kind of go over it in that way. Maybe have I don't know. I'm getting way ahead of myself when it comes to trying to outreach this more besides Twitter, but we'll see. We'll get there.
Yeah, but I think that probably covers everything from my end.
That's awesome. Well, Rose, thank you so much for coming on to the episode and talking about the Splat magazine, an amazing project that you have going on that sheds a lot of spotlights in the community, about the community, and for the community. So I'd like to give you this time to shout out anything you'd want, anyone you'd like, plug yourself, whatever you'd like to do. The floor is yours.
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at rosero_SPL. That's where you're going to find the most recent issue of the magazine pinned to my page. And if you scroll down a little bit, you'll also see the link to the Discord server if you'd like to either be involved or just stay informed. And then I guess my last shout out's going to go to Asing because it was his birthday today. So, yay, Asing.
Happy birthday to Asing. Welcome. Hopefully they're watching. I think they are watching. I did see them in the chat earlier. So happy birthday to them as well. So once again, Rose, thank you so much for coming on. I was your host, Glitch Cactus, and this was the Cactus Patch. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.